I'm pleased to be joined by our Minnesota Governor, Mark Dayton, today. We've had a wonderful day here in Stillwater together with our legislators. Governor Dayton has been so gracious. When he first came out to Washington, D.C. and met with me in Washington, he asked, what could we work on together? What are the highest priorities for our district? And I had mentioned two. I said, Governor, if I have two. If we can solve these two problems, I'll be very happy. One was a road project up by the Veterans Association, or Veterans Hospital in St. Cloud. This was a project that had been very slow and hadn't been progressing, and with the governor's help, we were able to get that project underway. We're so thrilled. And so I said, one down, one to go. And so now the governor was gracious enough to come over today. We had a great meeting with our legislators, and I think we've made progress, and we're just delighted. And with that, I'll let Governor Dayton speak.
Well, thank you, Representative Bachmann. I thank you for your leadership in convening this meeting and bringing us together. And they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. We had several thousand words worth of view of the bridge from both underneath it and on top of it. And as I learned from my transportation mentor, Dick Braun, some of us remember from years ago, commissioner for a couple of decades, anytime you go from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, or from 6 lanes to 4 lanes, you end up with congestion. And given the age of this bridge and the 2-lane aspect to it, as well as it being a drawbridge, as we heard from people on both the Wisconsin side and the Minnesota side, Stillwater, that it causes us serious backups during rush hour on weekends. People in Wisconsin said it prevents people from coming over to Stillwater to shop here, which of course translates into jobs and revenues for Minnesota. And of course, we have the reality that the Minnesota Department of Transportation under Governor Plenty was ready to proceed. Wisconsin has stated its readiness to proceed. The Wisconsin funding, we're told, would be available if the opportunity to go forward presents itself. And Wisconsin's, I believe, made the decision that until that occurs, they're going to use their limited highway dollars for other projects that can move forward, and that's a consideration that Commissioner Sorrell and I have discussed here, but that doesn't address my commitment to this project going forward if the Congress can resolve the stoppage of the project by the National Park Service. And Representative Bachmann has introduced legislation to achieve that. She says she's optimistic in the House. I said I've learned in the Senate, being 100th in seniority, that I don't have much influence there. But that's why we have people in Washington as well as those of us serving in Minnesota. So remains to be seen whether that can be accomplished. But I commend the Congresswoman for making that, taking that initiative. And again, Minnesota's MnDOT stands ready to do its part if this can go forward.
Thank you, Governor. And we have strong support. It's bipartisan support. On my bill, we have support of my colleague, Representative Ron Kind of Wisconsin, also Representative Sean Duffy, as well as Representative Chip Kravac. We have support coming from the Senate side on Wisconsin, and also, I believe, we were told from Governor Walker as well, and Governor Dayton. So it looks like we have all of the pieces coming together. I met yesterday with the Committee on Natural Resources. This is considered a very high priority bill. We understand that the bill will be heard shortly in committee. We're very positive about a favorable result moving through committee and on the floor vote, and then from there we'll move on to the Senate. And so we'll be working with our Minnesota Senators, Klobuchar and Franken, to see that this also gets included. It's time for the bridge to be built, and so we're looking forward to working hand in hand and see that it happens. So again, I can't thank the governor enough for his graciousness to be involved today. We've had a very good day, and we're very encouraged.
Governor, you said you commend Representative Bachmann for the legislation. Did you back the legislation then too, and have your administration lobby on its path?
Well, I'm not going to try to persuade Congress how to act, but I want a resolution of this. We need a bridge. I think if the legislation can be enacted, the bridge can go forward. This is the only realistic option for this for the next decade. If either through all the returning to the beginning of the stage of the project. I was here a decade ago. I mean, I spoke to the Stillwater Chamber as a United States Senator 10 years ago, and the project was about the same place it was today. It was ready to move forward at the state level, and the different federal agencies were unable to reach an agreement among themselves as to permit the project to proceed. There were 4 federal agencies then claiming jurisdiction, and they each had a different and contradictory view of what needed to happen. What has resolved itself up until recently was, there finally was a concurrence about one particular project. It's not a project that satisfies everybody. It's very difficult to build major transportation projects by consensus, but the economics, as well as the social vitality of this region, as well as the safety of public transportation from one side of the river to the other, all to me point to the need for another bridge, a new bridge. And it also means that you're going to have to deal with the present reality of the situation. So, if this can go forward, then it should go forward. If realistically it's not, then then we'll have to go back to square one. But then, as I say, realistically, that bridge or whatever refurbishing could be done is not going to change the basic design of it. We've been assured by MnDOT it's safe. I think it's important for people to know that the professional opinion of the engineer for MnDOT, who's responsible and said he has the personal professional responsibility for the safety of the bridge, is that it's structurally safe. It's old. It's 80 years old. And is in need of ongoing repairs, about $75,000 a year's worth. But that doesn't get at the basic issue of its insufficiency, its inadequacy for modern transportation needs on both sides of the river and for the businesses in this area to be able to be functional and to be successful. I take back functional, but to be successful, as successful economically as they could be. And again, there needs to be a resolution. There needs to be a modern crossing that's as aesthetically compatible with this wonderful river and its natural expanse, but this is an urban area, and I think the bridge was designed and located to have a minimal impact on the scenic river. And so, again, if the Congress acts, then we can proceed. If the Congress doesn't act, then realistically we're going to have to go back and to square one. But we're looking at another decade without any substantial change in the situation that affects both sides of the river today.
Governor, some environmental groups want
If I could just add one thing. Also, since the 1990s, the addition to the cost of building the bridge has been approximately $3.17 million per month as we delay. So the longer that we delay, the greater the cost to the taxpayer. So that's why we're hoping for a quick resolution on this as well. And again, I thank you.
Some environmental groups want a smaller, more scenic bridge. Do you just think that's not feasible for what is needed out here for transportation purposes?
Well, again, I came into a situation in which a bridge was designed and went through the various environmental impact statements and reviews, and that was the determination made. The reality is, if that bridge doesn't go forward, then you have to go back to square one. You have to start with an environmental assessment, impact statement. If there could be agreement on a smaller bridge. If you have another 2-lane bridge, the question is that worth the public cost to replace an existing 2-lane bridge? And I'm not a traffic expert, but I do know that 2 lanes is inadequate today, according to the reports on both sides of the river. So, a 2-lane bridge is, again, I'm not qualified to make that assessment. But I understand and I respect the point of view. There are people that don't want a bridge at all, and I think it's a little bit disingenuous to say, well, we're in favor of a different bridge from this one when this one's the only realistic possibility for the next decade and probably longer. I think if people who don't want a bridge at all should be forthright enough to say they don't want a bridge at all, and they're citizens, they have a right to their point of view. But then, I mean, those are the real 2 alternatives for the foreseeable future, is either that bridge that's been proposed and is now being stopped by the action of the National Park Service, or no bridge at all, the existing bridge refurbished and maintained as a safe bridge. That'll be the ongoing responsibility of both the Minnesota and Wisconsin Departments of Transportation. But I think, as I say, just not really realistic. There's another alternative.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congresswoman, could you briefly describe your legislation?
Yes, the legislation simply affirms the decision of the National Park Service of 2005, which said that the bridge is consistent with the Wild and Scenic Act. The legislation does not contain funding. It is not an earmark, nor does the legislation remove a portion of the river from the Wild and Scenic Act. It merely reaffirms the decision by the Park Service so that the bridge can go forward. We're at a point now where it takes an act of Congress in order to get a bridge built, and so that's what we're doing. Once we can pass this legislation, then we can go ahead and proceed. We believe that we have the monies available, and this project could actually begin fairly quickly. We think the people of this area deserve it, and we also understand from our building trades that we're looking at approximately $200 million worth of economic activity and wages that would be paid for local jobs. That would be, I think, very welcome to Minnesota at this time.
And have Senators Klobuchar and Franklin signed on? Are they still sponsoring a bill in the Senate?
On the Senate side, that is still in discussion, and I look forward to working with both Senators Klobuchar and Franken on the legislation.
So again, this is not an earmark, it just essentially stops the Park Service from denying this from going forward, is that?
Yes, it paves the way so that this bridge could be built. Then the next step would be the funding at the state level, and away we go.
Governor Bachmann, do you think that Representative McCall's opposition is about road project? And will it have any bearing with the senators?
Well, of course, the committee will make the decision, and then the full House. And from what I have gleaned so far, I believe the legislation will pass the committee and will pass the House. Then the real decision will be with the United States Senate.
Governor, one of the objections raised by Betty McCollum and some of the opponents is that this will create havoc on Highway 36 with additional volume of traffic coming through. Are you assured that MnDOT can deal with those issues?
Well, I'm again not the traffic authority, and the assessment, both from an environmental standpoint and from a functional standpoint and from a transportation standpoint, was made by the MnDOT before I arrived. And if I anticipated the question, I would have asked them to stay. Commissioner Sorrell's in Washington today, but some of his people are here, so I can't give you a qualified answer to that. But my assumption is that they've made this assessment, and again, MnDOT has stood as a matter of official state policy of the prior administration and continuing to be ready to proceed with this as their view the best transportation option for this region. And so I can't speak specifically to that, and anytime you've got diverting a flow of transportation from where it is now, and the mayor and the county commissioners talked about the serious congestion on this side, as the Wisconsin local officials did on their side. So because there's going to be another impact on 36, I would have to say there probably would be locally, and Oak Park Heights is concerned about that, and they have some funding issues, but I think those are resolvable from what I've been told by MnDOT. But certainly the flow-through traffic that's going from western Wisconsin to the Twin Cities for people working here gets on to 36, down 95, I believe it is. Is that the right route? And that is great, as you said, Congresswoman, its own congestion too. So, X number of cars, if you shifted one location to another, I can't say it's not going to have a traffic impact, but I think the flow of traffic will be better, and certainly the commercial benefits to Stillwater of making the downtown accessible to people on both sides of the river who want to use it, want to shop here, would be a plus.
The governor, again, I want to thank him for coming to Stillwater today. He's been very forthright, very generous with his time. We appreciate that. And now I believe that the governor and I will both be filling some sandbags. So if you excuse us, I think we're going to go do some sandbag filling.
Exercise.
Well, and I'll join you.
Right,
okay,
good.
thank you, everyone.
Talk to Senators Klobuchar and Franken and ask them to support this.
I haven't talked to them yet about it. I don't know. I haven't assessed that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.